Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Renault Megane car. Renault, France, DCI. These are keywords that, when combined, are a source of terrifying facts and myths about used compact cars from 2002 to 2008. Renault created the second generation of Megane with strong competition from Germany and Japan in mind. A modern compact for little money scares many people away, but is it worth being afraid? The car debuted in 2002 and it was a good time. On the market, European rivals still had quite old designs such as Focus I, Golf IB and Astra II. Renault Megane II was a next-generation car thanks to which it conquered the compact market very quickly. It was simply fresh, and together with the Peugeot 307 debuting a year earlier, they took customers from the competition. In addition, the Megane II was the first compact car with a 5-star Euro NCAP result, and in those days this was taken very seriously. In addition, the customer had good equipment as standard, and in the richer versions practically everything. The advantage in the eyes of customers at that time was the now classic card replacing the key. The interior, like the body, is quite original, and to this day it is enough to say, Megane with that strange rear window, and everyone knows what I mean. Not everyone likes the rear of the Megane II, but generally the car is nice and there is no doubt about the practicality of the body. Structurally, the Renault Megane II is no different from its competitors. A major advantage in terms of operation is its simple suspension. The front uses McPherson struts with triangular wishbones, while the rear is a classic torsion beam, in which the springs and shock absorbers mounted at a large angle are separated. Engines. Customers had a wide choice of engines from small petrols and diesels to powerful turbocharged engines. The smallest were the petrol 1.416V, 82 and 98 hydrogen phosphide, a very successful and durable engine, and the hero of the video 1.5 DCI with power from 82 to 106 HP. The larger 1.616 volts and 2.0 16V units have power of 113 and 135 HP respectively. The most powerful petrol engine in the standard Megane was the 2.0 turbo 165 hydrogen phosphide, while the larger and more powerful diesels were the 1.9 DCI and the rarely seen 2.0 DCI with power from 90 to 150 HP. What's broken? Mainly the 1.5 DCI engine. It is the one that scares the most, and at the same time tempts with its price and operating costs. The design of this unit is theoretically very successful, although it is based on the old 1.5 diesel, in which common rail injection appeared. The engine debuted on the market with the first-generation Delphi injection, but shortly after the debut of Megane II, the second generation appeared. The initial Delphi equipment was not very durable, but it is quite cheap to repair. Towards the end of production, first in stronger versions, later also in weaker ones, the Siemens injection appeared, which gave better parameters, was durable, but repairing the injectors turned out to be practically impossible. The engine had numerous upgrades to adapt it to increasingly stringent emission standards, and at the same time there are big differences between the years. After 2005, facelift, particulate filters and variable geometry turbochargers were almost standard, but this is not the rule. Less powerful versions were also sometimes equipped with dual-mass wheels, but for a long time they had fixed geometry turbochargers, which in turn were standard on versions above 100 horsepower. More powerful engines also had oil spray on the piston crowns. It is difficult to have a clear configuration of the most important equipment in 1.5 DCI engines, especially since many cars on the European secondary market were imported, and the configurations differed depending on the country of origin. Generally, however, it can be assumed that the more expensive to service Siemens injection, dual-mass wheels, particulate filters and variable geometry turbochargers apply rather to more powerful engines, and especially engines manufactured after 2005. I mention all this for a reason. In almost every area the 1.5 DCI had problems. Siemens injectors are durable but expensive to repair, although in practice unrepairable. Delphi offered solenoid injectors, relatively cheap as new and easy to recondition, but very susceptible to wear. With poor quality fuel, they did not always last 100,000 kilometers. Each of them could cause damage to the engine. When they started to pour too much fuel, they could burn the piston crowns. Regular, much more frequent than the manufacturer's recommendations, replacement of the fuel filter helps protect the injectors. The manufacturer predicted a replacement period of every 60,000 kilometers. Another problem is the timing belt, but only if someone has extended its maximum mileage. It is best to shorten the replacement interval to 100,000 kilometers. Fixed geometry turbochargers work great, but variable ones are not very popular in city use. In addition, the intake and exhaust systems are subject to failures in the boost pressure sensor and EGR valve. Specifically, it is due to contamination. Regular cleaning of carbon deposits solves most problems. The electronics controlling the operation of the drive unit are also sensitive and unfortunately not very resistant to corrosion. The above faults are nothing compared to the seizing of the crankshaft bearings. Unfortunately, the 1.5 DCI unit is mainly known for this. Some were so unlucky that after tens of thousands of kilometers of intensive use, the engine actually had to be replaced. Most of them have also encountered this problem after exceeding 150,000 kilometers. However, there are those who have done more than 200,000 and still drive without signs of bearing wear. What is the answer? There are two preventive measures: proper use and frequent oil changes. Using low engine speeds, which the quiet and cultured 1.5 DCI unit encourages, quickly kills the bearings. When the driver likes to rev the engine higher, but without pressing the gas pedal hard, it significantly extends the life of the engine. However, the biggest culprit of this failure is the very infrequent oil change. The manufacturer predicted it every 30,000 kilometers, which is absurd. People who changed the oil every 15,000 kilometers enjoyed long engine use. It is best to shorten this period to the normal 10,000 kilometers. More frequent oil changes will also protect the turbocharger. What to do when the bearings seize? When you hear knocking at the bottom of the engine, it may be too late. Unfortunately, repair is not very profitable, unless you have a friendly workshop that will do many things at a cost. Normally, you replace the entire engine with a used one and sell the car while it is running. Or, better, to sell the car while the engine is running, because sometimes the buyer will drive another dozen or so thousand kilometers. That's it for the engine, but what about the rest? The suspension wears normally, and what's more, it's easy to repair. It's worth installing the whole set with bearings every time you replace the front shock absorbers, as they wear out faster than the shock absorbers themselves. The bodywork is worse, although it is well protected against corrosion. 12-year warranty. When repaired, it can rot very quickly. In addition, rust appears on the screw connections and exhaust. It is worth remembering that the front fenders are made of plastic. In Megane II, electronics and equipment sometimes fail. The air conditioning system causes problems, with sensors, valves or system leaks failing. There are also faults with the automatic air conditioning, which are signaled by an error on the dashboard. In this case, the repair requires reprogramming the computer and replacing the compressor plug, but Renault has covered this with a service campaign. This is the strong point of the Megane II, provided that we buy a car with low mileage or a petrol engine. The 1.5 DCI uses small amounts of fuel. If someone claims that the car burns less than 5 100 kilometers, they do not have to invent fairy tales. Such results can be achieved with a calm drive even in models such as the modern Renault Kangoo or Dacia Docker. Apart from the engine, the suspension is cheap to repair, and any electrician, not necessarily knowledgeable about Renault cars, can handle the electrics. In the front suspension, the bushes are usually replaced, including the wishbones, and at the rear, only the elements connecting the beam to the body. It is best to do this when replacing the shock absorbers and forget about the problem for many years. Replacing the headlight bulbs is quite problematic. Sometimes you will have to visit an electrician. Unfortunately, when buying a car with a 1.5 DCI engine, you have to reckon with a serious failure of the unit at any moment. This is the cost of buying a car cheaper than the most popular compacts on the secondary market. Is it worth it? In principle, no, as long as we are talking about the 1.5 DCI and 1.9 DCI engines. These are so problematic and risky that they cannot be recommended with a clear conscience. Personally, I advise against even models with low mileage. It is better to look around for a petrol engine and install a gas system. This way, we will buy a cheap, problem-free car that will reward us with low operating costs and travel comfort. Thank you for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I did not mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what breaks and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.